If you say any mother that says that, it must be true.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Overview Committee. I'm Councillor Cathy Mason, the Chairman of the committee, and I would like to welcome you all to this meeting of Overview Committee that is being broadcast live and recorded for publication. Item Agenda 1, to ask the committee to approve the minutes of the last meeting, please. Oh, will you say take a show of hands on that, please? Is that all good? Is there any objections? No, we should have said so. Right, so. Can I ask the clerk for apologies for absence, please?
Councillor Jodie Stoll is substituting for Councillor Faz Chowdhury, who sends apologies under the category Other County Council Business. Councillor John Siemens is substituting for Councillor David Clark, who sends apologies under the category Other Business. Thank you, Chair.
Apologies, members. I've just realised we have got the additional microphones on today based on feedback we've had about the sound. So if you just remember just to switch the microphone on when you speak and then switch it off, and it should make it a little bit louder in the room.
Item Agenda 3. Declarations of interest. If any councillor or officer has an interest in any matter on the agenda, you should declare it now. Please raise your hand if you have an interest to declare. If you have an interest to declare, you should state what type of interest it is and give brief details. Are there any declarations, please? No declaration. Agenda item 4 is our council plan for 25 to 29 development and progress update. I would like to ask Councillor Doddy, Deputy Leader of the Council, to introduce the report, please.
Thanks very much indeed. Am I the first person to use these microphones? I've been after microphones for a long time. Does it make a difference? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Everybody hear me? Fantastic. Excellent. So thank you, Chair. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the Council Plan 2025-2029. The original plan, and it was the original plan, was 2021, and it was a 10-year plan. I shall remind those people who were around at the same time, this is what that actual plan looked like, the 2021 10-year plan. And it was a child of its time, so to speak. It was a post-COVID recovery type plan and suited the needs of that time. Since then, there has been the emergence of many big players in the area, not least the East Midlands Combined Counties Authority. And since then, we've had their inclusive growth plan, which we must be mindful of as we move forward. And if you think that that plan was a plan, this is just the beginning of their plan of 100 odd pages. If you then look at the fact that we had to be the other things that were occurring around us while we were developing this plan, we not only had that, but we had the 10-year plan for the NHS, which is abbreviated to this plan, and we had to be aware of all of those things happening around us at the same time as we were trying to develop a vision for the new leadership for the next 5 years, 2025 to 2029 or thereabouts, including that local government reorganisation. And you can see that this was quite a challenge in itself just to get to where we've got to. The plan itself came about through a working group. The working group had all the significant portfolio holders involved in it and met on multiple occasions, and knowledge refreshes information. And all of those were party to the joint strategic needs assessments for their particular areas, be that adult social care, be that children's services, be that any area that was necessary, the important information was given to them so that they could use joint strategic needs assessments to come up with the priorities that they had. And with that, over a period of time, we came up with the caption of family, community and county, and we devised the strategic plan, the outlines of which you have before you today. And with that, I shall pass you over for the detail to the Director of, to Lucy Peel.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duddy. So just, I'll give a little more. Thank you. So I'll give a little more detail and then for committee members to provide contributions if that's okay. So as Councillor Dudley's described, the working group has met a number of times considering a range of outcome and performance information, so joint strategic needs assessments as well as key performance data, benchmarking data, looking at how the council compares to other comparable councils across the country, and some of that summary information is included within the pack that was provided to you. So that includes things around the kind of necessary, the requirement, if you like, for building stronger relationships with communities in order to support people's health and well-being kind of at an early stage. Particularly if we're going to make progress on addressing issues such as healthy life expectancy, challenges that are well known, I think, around, so for example, us more children in local authority care in Nottinghamshire being in residential care than we would want to be the case, that being an impact on both their outcomes and also challenging for the council's budget. And then equally from an adult social care perspective, a need for us to secure more independence for some of adults who require care and support, so more adults living in institutional care than we want to be the case. So these factors, I guess, kind of becoming things that the plan needs to seek to address. And finally, then a point around pay and the need for continuing to drive employment, well-paid jobs, economic growth. So there's an organisation, but also, as Councillor Dolly described, in partnership with the combined authority. So a pragmatic approach has been taken to engaging, securing resident engagement and developing the plan, and that partly reflects the context in which this plan has been developed, i.e. in the same period as which the council is required to develop its proposal for local government reorganisation, and recognising that from a residents and a public perspective, it can be quite confused if they are being repeatedly engaged on similar themes, asking similar questions, but so what we've sought to do through the development of the plan is to do some targeted and focused engagement. So we've done some engagement specifically with young people, drawing on some engagement that was already intended and underway. So, for example, a bigger conversation with adults, which has recently finished. And also we've done some engagement through elected members, so asking members to surveying members so that they can identify the priorities that their constituencies most regularly raise with them. As well as engaging with our workforce and holding effective webinars, engagement sessions with a good number of council colleagues in order to shape that plan. So the plan describes a proposed approach in terms of the future ways of working for the council, and I won't kind of go through that line by line, but that picks up, identifies some key approaches that the Cabinet Working Group felt were important. So that point very much around your voice counts, so really engaging with communities to co-design services that are provided and make sure that we are reaching those who would most benefit from council support. Continuing that ethos on prevention first, so bringing that through, so that point around building blocks of good health and recognising and building on the foundations in place through things like family hubs, and then being, as you expect, I guess, making the most of resources, so being efficient, effective in the way that the council seeks to run its services. So there are three broad outcome-related areas that Councillor Dudley outlined. So the first being stronger families, care and connections. So that's how you see an emphasis around all children having the best start in life. So really thinking about that kind of conception through to the early years. No child left behind. So thinking about children in the school context, trying to make sure that all children are able to succeed, safe and supported. So that's very much around those children who need additional help, protection and care from the council. And a real emphasis on celebrating carers. So that's those people in our communities who care for, whether that's vulnerable children, adults who have care and support needs. So, for example, kinship carers, foster carers, and shared lives carers. a second strand around rooted in communities, and again, that's very much around how we can support people's health and wellbeing, but also support people to support each other, and whether that's and equally then a focus on housing. So recognising that actually that's a key building block of good health for residents, but actually for those children again and adults who have need for specialist homes, for example, actually really making sure we're maximising what we can do to make sure that those people can live in have a front door of their own, is what we describe it as. And then that third outcome area around a connected county creating opportunities. So that's where you would see the focus on employment, jobs, highways. So the kind of key priority around continuing to improve the roads and making sure that the economy works for everyone. The fourth priority area is more internally focused in terms of it looks at the way that the council does its business, so the way it works. So focusing on a council that leads, a council that listens. So very much focusing, as I've already said, around being efficient and effective, continuing to support our skilled and committed workforce, making sure we've got the right skill sets to do the range of things that the council needs to do now and into the future. A focus on collaborating with partners, because much of what we do as an organisation, we do in partnership with others, whether that's the police around social behaviour, whether that's with health around adults with health and care and support needs. And then finally, community-led. So a real emphasis on, as I say, how the organisation then works closely with local people and communities to make sure that the services that are put in place are accessible, available to, and ones that residents are able to access. So we're in the final stages of refining the plan in terms of incorporating feedback, and some of that feedback continues to come in. I think that the other point I would kind of reflect is around the work that sits alongside the overarching strategic plan. So the next phase will be to develop what we call the annual delivery plan, which is an approach that members may be familiar with. So that's the detailed set of actions and milestones that will take forward the broad ambitions in the plan, and then the monitoring arrangements that will go alongside that. So looking at how we can track and make sure the things that we are doing as a council have the impact that we need them to have. So where we have an ambition, for example, around supporting more children to be in family-based placements, making sure that we've got a really sharp focus on whether or not the actions that we're taking are enabling us to achieve that. Hopefully that's a sufficient overview of the work that we've done to date, and I can hand back to you.
That's lovely, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to move the recommendations of the report as is written. I don't have to do the last one.
That's for a second.
And I would like a seconder, please. Lovely. And then if you'd like to raise your hand or whatever for any questions you have to the officers. Yeah. Councillor,
Thank you, Chair.
hang on. It's Councillor Lawton, keep you.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few questions, if I may. One is, you alluded to, Lucy, a pack. Well, I haven't seen any pack. Is this the pack that we've got at the back of this, or is this something that we haven't been made aware of, or I haven't been able to scrutinise pack? Nothing has been forwarded to me as a councillor. What's the situation?
So when I referred to the pack, I meant the cover report and then the supporting presentation, which pulls out some of the summary information that.
So you're referring to this?
Yeah.
So there is no, right, okay. So I'm a little bit lost, really. I wrote the last plan along with Derek. We've put a lot of work into it. So is this 6-page document the plan? Or is it just a series of slides? So we still await the plan itself, do we?
Yes, so we're working on the final draft of the plan. So what this document seeks to do is to describe the approach taken to developing the plan, the emerging priorities and key areas that the plan will focus on, and how the working group is arrived at that point. But the full plan will be presented for full council consideration on the 20th of November.
Okay, because this document does not cover how you intend to monitor the effectiveness of the plan, which is obviously extremely important as far as the plan is concerned. The previous plan was constantly being updated and monitored for its effectiveness. And it's not mentioned within this documentation how you intend to carry out that process. So my question is, how do you intend to carry out that process, and how can we scrutinise the effectiveness of the new plan?
In terms of, there's a high-level summary in paragraph 7 of the report, which details that the annual delivery plan will be monitored quarterly with milestones in place to track progress, enabling action to be taken where milestones are off track, and suggesting that progress is reported to overview the Cabinet every 6 months as a mini progress report, and then end of year annual report, which is the same structure and approach that was taken to monitoring the previous plan. And that update, in addition to the reporting of progress in terms of activities completed, that will also consider updating against key performance indicators so that monitoring of the plan can be undertaken. But you know, would welcome overview consideration of whether that feels an effective, whether that sequence feels appropriate in terms of the role that overview wish to play.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Can I suggest that that should have been an integral part of the report? The most important thing is it's all right writing a plan, but whether your plan's working or not, and the operation of KPIs and ways of monitoring are extremely important to, particularly to us as the opposition. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a question regarding communication and publicity of the council plan. So how will the plan be made a more accessible document for everybody? So as not all Nottinghamshire residents are online savvy and go online and techno savvy, the document may not be accessible to a certain group of people, the type of people who don't go on the computer all the time. So a suggestion, if not already considered, could there be like a monthly or quarterly like newsletter or document posted to Nottinghamshire residents' addresses? Now I realise that could be a bit cost effective, but it'd be a lot easier for them to then everybody to be able to easily access updates and information about the council plan. This will ensure that, like I said, all Nottinghamshire residents are aware of the council's plan and any updates. As currently in my area, Mansfield North, we have the Woodhouse Warden, which is like a newsletter, which is a quarterly newsletter which advertises all businesses, gives you all the events and activities, what are happening in the area, gives you really important information, which is beneficial for the people who don't travel from their home. So with something as big as a council plan, I think we need various methods of communication and publicising so we can reach out and share the information with everyone and give them important updates. Now, if this isn't cost effective, which it probably isn't cost effective to post like a research booklet to every Nottinghamshire household, perhaps we could put newsletters or publications on like a quarterly basis in like local community hubs in doctors' surgeries or in like libraries, for example. I just wondered if that was an option. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I mean, we've done some early thinking around accessibility. So, and one of the intentions actually is to work on the version. We've got colleagues who will work on that. But I think there's some really helpful suggestions in there which we can take away. Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Stoll. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Lucy, for providing what we now know as an update rather than the final plan. Just page 20 of our pack, which is about the third, fourth slide of your presentation on the proposed outcomes and ambitions. There's 3 columns there with lots of lovely, fluffy, kind words in that every councillor will be pleased to say that this council is doing when we're on the doorstep. But then if the residents turn around and say, how's the council doing that? We absolutely have nothing to point to in this plan of how the new administration is going to deliver these nice, fluffy words. So will the final plan that is brought forward by the Deputy Leader in November actually point to examples of how we're going to, as a council, give children the best start in life, look out for each other, how we encourage neighbourhoods to do that? I'm interested to see that. Dr. John Doddy works in the community far closer than anyone in this room, so maybe there's some new ideas coming out. A place to call home, all sounds lovely, but they are just jargon, fluffy words. Will the final plan have real examples in, to which then this committee under the chairmanship here can review and make sure that that's being carried out and monitored throughout the year, please?
Thanks, Councillor Smith. So yes, the plan will both include, I guess, specific actions, which will be kind of high-level actions, which will demonstrate what will be delivered, and the detail of that will sit within the annual delivery plan that would support the overarching strategic plan. But equally, the plan includes a set of success means statements, which actually is an approach that we've taken forward from the previous plan, which again describes what impact you would expect to see through a successful delivery of plan. So that might mean, for example, more children living in family-based placements, for example, more adults able to live in independence rather than in institutional care. So for each of the set of outcomes, there is a corresponding set of proposals, there's a corresponding set of success means criteria that can then be tracked.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Doddy.
And specifically in areas that bring about the greatest public health improvements by targeting the most vulnerable, we'll be particularly looking to reduce smoking in pregnancy, which is at levels in parts of the county far in excess of the normal levels that exist elsewhere in the county and indeed the country, such that the unborn child is at risk due to that. So we're prioritising the reduction of smoking in pregnancy. You won't be surprised to hear that we're going to push the fluoridation of drinking water to reduce dental caries in the under fives, and again, the most vulnerable area of the child's existence. When the unborn child and the under fives cannot make their own decisions, and we have to step in and make those decisions for them. And lastly, prioritising immunisation of children so that we can get herd immunity back again and avoid the catastrophes of outbreaks of diseases like measles, which I brought up at the last full council, and prioritise those 3 areas, and they're very easily measurable, and we're happy to be held to account for them.
Councillor Wilmot.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it's just a few observations from the report, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of meat on the bone, and I think that's a good idea what you said about a newsletter, because there are 40% of the population don't get an email situation. It said in the report that you're going to it's got 3 outcomes, 3 key outcomes. They're success, ambition and priorities. And on the plan it says it will be monitored quarterly. I just wondered if problems did arise, would it be appropriate to meet more often if there is some real problems developed? Because as you already know, most councils are in serious debt and so forth, and delivering the services just doesn't happen at some of the areas. I just wondered if that's humanly possible. You said the plan is proposed to involve people in decisions that affect them. I just wondered how you're going to do that, especially in my town of Hucknall, that never seems to get to know about anything that happens anywhere, except in the district, of course. We're very proactive in making sure that the people know what's going on. And could you explain to me, it's good to see that you feel that prevention is high on the agenda, and that supporting good health and well-being, because I've been going on about that for a number of years. In fact, every year that I've been here, and the 34 years I've been on the council, prevention is better than actually having the problem, escalate over a number of years' time. And I'm obviously I'm looking forward to you monitoring the obesity smoking, drug taking, antisocial behaviour and shop crime, which is unfortunately certainly obesity, as you know from the Health and Wellbeing Board, obesity and smoking is still on the rise. How we're going to tackle that? That's a serious problem that needs addressing. You say that in your report that you're going to make stronger families. Does that include families living on the breadline that are using our food banks, families of children with educational needs? Does it include the children living with difficult families? And then, of course, you've got the million carers that are looking after loved ones, but for little and no resource, because in fact, the last report from the government says that if so many millions of pounds would have to be found if the carers didn't do all the work that they do for nothing. And it's an issue that needs addressing as far as I'm concerned, because I do go to a lot of meetings with carers all over Nottinghamshire, because I'm very, very interested in that, trying to get them help and so forth. And that is an area that needs looking at very seriously.
Can I just stop you there, Councillor Wilmot? Can we answer a couple of those before we go on?
Yeah.
Because I think there are several points there that you've already raised.
Oh yeah,
that
there is.
I'm losing the track of, so if we can just stop and break it down a little bit, I would appreciate it.
I'm only halfway through yet, by the way.
I can well believe it. Councillor Doddy.
Thank you, Kathy, for saving me from being overwhelmed there. Yes. Again, this plan is a plan which sits along other plans, and no plan sits as its own self. I think I started today by showing how all of these things would be integrated into the wider strategic authority, and not only that, into our place in trying to implement the 10-year plan, which, as we know, moved health from hospitals into communities, from analog to digital, and from disease to prevention. An awful lot of the questions that Councillor Wilmot wants to be addressed in this plan are addressed in the health and wellbeing strategy. And the health and wellbeing strategy, if you can refresh it as well. But the detail, obviously, of health and wellbeing will be clearer in terms of the actual distinct health prevention issues that you're actually talking about. An awful lot of this new plan is centred around SEND, and it's the one area where we have prioritised, where we have looked to particularly bring in extra psychologists to reduce the waiting list of special educational needs plans. And now we're above average nationally, you'll be glad to know, John. So children with special educational needs, etc., are prioritised. You're not going to be without the knowledge that the neighbourhood hubs are up and running now, replacing what used to be the Sure Start centres, and that's where the education for parents, that's where the family resilience will come in, that's where the promotion of breastfeeding, etc. That's where the maternal knowledge, that's where the preparation for preschool readiness of children, which is so important, will be there. And I don't have to remind you, Councillor Wilmot, that we have the public health outcomes framework. This is a framework of over 100 indices, which is looked at quarterly, which is before various committees and the Health and Wellbeing Board, and each of those indices covers much of the areas that you're talking about. It covers smoke, it covers obesity, it covers vaccination, it covers deprived areas, it covers what to do areas. And all of those 100 plus indices brought before you on a quarterly basis and an annual basis probably cover the vast majority of what you're asking about. But yes, there's a forward route for enormous improvement in all of these areas.
So if I could continue, I've been part of this health and wellbeing board situation. I'm still unhappy that a lot of the stuff that's been spoken about doesn't seem to be moving very quickly, and I'm absolutely astonished, really, of how many things are going on to the board saying this wants doing, that wants doing, and I don't see a lot of what's happening. you know, in the situation. Because a lot of the board members, I question whether they see what the reason behind attending these meetings.
Councillor Wilmot?
Yeah.
We're not doing health and wellbeing.
No.
Can we just ask or give the officers recommendations that you would think, not what you think would be good for this group, but for the report itself to make it better for everybody?
Yeah, well, you say that every person should have the opportunity to have a place of their own. It's very difficult for most councils because they've got thousands of people on the waiting list, and the cost of private tenancies are beyond most people's budget. That's a real serious issue. You say you're improving transport and the condition of our road network. I haven't seen a lot of that over the past 6 months that you've been in charge. I know that you are looking at the finances before you start spending lots and lots of money, but people are in my area especially are giving me hell at the present time on the condition of some of the roads. So just bear that in mind.
Councillor Wilmot, can we give recommendations to the benefit of this plan, not what hasn't happened, but recommendations to make sure?
I'm making observations of the whole situation. That's what I'm here for, to make observations of the overview of all the plans that are being put forward. As I say, you say that you're going to improve transport and the condition of the roads. Well, we're still waiting for a bus service in Hucknall that hasn't been provided between Bullwood and Hucknall, two major towns in my area. I've got no bus service whatsoever.
Councillor Doddy, if you'd like to reply.
Yes, I did start this by introducing the huge complexity of the world job in which we now exist, including the East Midlands Combined Counties Authority, which are taking over bus services in the very short future and will be responsible for all of that. So it's perhaps not within our remit to address the bus services within this particular plan. Equally well, they recently announced over 100,000 houses to be built, and equally well, they introduced a phenomenal amount of change that's going to occur with the strategic authority dealing with the issues that we've brought up. But we're aware of what's going on elsewhere, as well as what we need to put in our plan. But housing, transport, etc., has been done at scale.
My final point, if I'm allowed to, you say that we're going to focus on efficiency. Now that's okay, but some departments are already understaffed and working to capacity. So I don't know how you're going to make efficiency savings on there. You say you'd like to develop a skilled, committed workforce that will. But first of all, what we've got to need to get people the capacity to learn these trades, and that's you can do that by having each school have the capacity to learn every pupil a trade that is available to learn it in the schools. Can I say it's a very difficult situation to be on this committee because there are so much individual items that need addressing. And I just hope that you are on the job over the next few months, because we as members have got to let people know whether you are succeeding in your delivery plans. Thank you.
Councillor Doddy.
I'm just going to answer that last question, Councillor Wilmot, and it is part of what they call the opportunity escalator, which is part of the strategy for the regional authority, whereby schools are going to look to educate children for the job opportunities that exist in their area, particularly around Mansfield and Step Fusion, where you can go into a school and you could ask them how many of them want to be involved in nuclear physics going forward, and if anyone heard about fusion energy, etc. And therefore, you're exactly right that if we don't go into the schools and prepare the kids for the jobs which are local, we'll never put them on that opportunity estimator to bring them out of poverty and bring them into what we want for every child in the best opportunity in life. So you've practically read the mind of the strategic authority there.
I can do that.
You can do that.
Are there any other questions from the board? Councillor Stoll.
Point 13, the plan will include a range of priorities within each of these outcome areas. For example, engaging more with communities in designing services. So I'm very interested in that sentence. When we're engaging with communities in designing services, perhaps might be a question for Councillor Dolly, I'm not sure, but could we elucidate the committee in exactly what that would mean in terms of designing services with, you know, with the community directly? I'm thinking something around the co-production that we've spoke about in adult social care committee and things like that. So yeah, it's very interested in how we would engage and work with the community in putting and designing a service from that meets their needs rather than it being imposed from the top down. Thank you. That makes sense.
That's the question. It does actually make perfect sense. For me, most of what we do follows a very simple model. It's generally accepted that is a biomedical model. And we will say to a community, it is best that you get vaccinated to protect your child against measles, mumps, rubella. And a lot of people will say, oh yes, that's very good information, and they'll go and do it. That works really, really well when it works well. And the reason it falls down is because there are lots of people in communities who don't have the same biomedical understanding that we have. Sometimes that's a lack of knowledge. Sometimes that's a lack of literacy skills. Sometimes in certain areas that we go into, 80% of the kids do not have English as their first spoken language. That's communities that don't actually necessarily invite healthcare and councils and social workers into their communities readily. And it's those smaller areas that cause the failure of herd immunity, that create the challenges, and only by understanding that the sociological approach to the delivery of care in these communities is far more successful than some top-down biomedical model which imposes things upon them. So you're absolutely right, going into communities, getting to know the communities that you live in, getting to know what their shared cultural values are, will bring about the success in the small numbers of people, which make the difference between success and failure over campaigns with regards to health and well-being as we move forward.
If Paul doesn't mind, I've got a couple of questions. Just on the delivery, I like the simplified version. Obviously, I like the libraries scene where you can pick stuff up. Are we planning any workshops in this community delivery? And in the actual report, can we not use any acronyms, please? Because while we know what they mean, the public isn't going to have a clue. And maybe I'm quite mistaken of how things are now, because I was at school quite a long while ago, and injections and so on were handed out at certain ages during the school period. Does that no longer take place?
You mean as in the role of the school nurse, which used to go in and do TB jabs to people, which used to go in and do HPV jabs, virus jabs, etc. The basic immunisations from naught to preschool are all carried out generally in GP surgeries. Anything after that becomes the function of the school nurse.
So it does still happen. So
does still happen.
That's fair enough. It's all right if you've not been there a long while. You just checking that the children sort of used to take things home. Take things home, get it signed by mum and dad, and then you was in there. So there is a good percentage of children being contacted and protected in that respect. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was. Yes, so I mean, that's not my detailed area of expertise, so I'll not answer that question if that's okay, but we can certainly provide a response to that.
Yeah.
In terms of your other questions, so we worked really hard in the drafting of the plan to make sure that it's as plain English as possible. But certainly we'll do another check through and make sure that that document, but also the support report that comes to council is clear in its use of language and that we avoid falling into local government speak. In terms of the question you raised around workshops in the community, so I think I heard your question as being around kind of related to that question around co-design. So actually in the work we're doing to shape the services we provide, are we doing that within kind of community spaces? So yes, that's absolutely the intention, building on some of the work that we do already. So for example, in our family hubs, there's lots of engagement work that takes place with families that come to those venues in order to shape how we make sure that the services that are provided through those hubs, and indeed what services are provided through those hubs, because it isn't just about how we as a council provide services, but it's how we can kind of connect in the wider support that families would benefit from provided through other organisations. So, but I think in terms of this plan moving forward, I would expect to see a greater emphasis moving forwards on making sure that in as many of the council's activities as possible, we're really looking for opportunities to go further in terms of our engagement with communities through kind of local venues such as schools, for example.
Are there any other questions on this? That's Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Just taking up Councillor Wilmot's point of efficiency and effectiveness, maximising our resources to ensure we provide value for money to the taxpayer. Can they expand on that and maybe give some examples of how it might take place in practice?
You got it.
Members will be aware that there's an efficiency review underway under Cabinet. So that review is looking at ways that the organisation can be as efficient and effective as they can be moving forwards. So there are a range of areas being considered through that approach. So that might include things like, for example, the organisation's use of digital tools. So we know that technology changes, kind of evolves rapidly, and actually as a workforce, are there things that we can do to work more efficiently and effectively in the way that we do our work in order to be able to be as efficient as possible, both in the work that we do as officers, but also in the way that we engage with residents, for example. So there are a range of things that we're doing in order to try and be as efficient as possible, but also modernise the way that the organisation works, such that it also improves the services that are provided to residents.
Bulldoze.
Thank you.
Sorry,
It's all right.
I couldn't help myself.
Kathy. Yes, I was just going to follow up on that. And one of the mainstays of this is the development of the foster carer programme. And not only is it hugely more beneficial for the resilience of the child to grow up within a strong family hub through fostering, it is infinitely more cost effective than residential care in an open market where prices can be astronomical. So you can see that a core theme running through foster caring is to provide children with a home, and we make no excuse for the fact that that is front and priority of a lot of the things that we're trying to achieve through kinship, through foster care, and as Councillor Wilmot mentioned, the million unpaid carers that actually exist out there. The digital technology will become the key. It was said to me by somebody recently that the only way that the NHS and county councils can survive is by finding a model where multi-morbidities can be dealt with within communities and outside the NHS and hospital care, and the management of people with chronic, severe, multiple problems through digital technology. And the people leading the way are the Japanese, who are using robot technology in people's homes to look after them and care for them. And strangely enough, Korea, number 2 on that. But that's the world into which we will start to emerge ourselves, where most of the savings, etc., will become, as pointed out by Lucy. Thank you.
Councillor Cox, please.
Good morning. I'm just wondering, on page 17, the summary of findings, if there's a typo there, and that typo being the number of younger adults, and then you've got in brackets aged 18 to 64. Now, younger adults, 64?
Stuart felt really well walking in here this morning. I'm a younger adult.
I'm just to try and lighten the load somewhat, but is that a typo? Should it be 24? I mean, is he at 64? Are we still young adults?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So in terms of the Care Act and our responsibilities towards adults with care and support needs, that's the definition that's used in terms of.
I'm not calling you young, Stuart. I'm not.
Thank you. I find that amazing, but thank you.
If everybody's happy with what they're asked at the moment, I'll ask Martin to do a summary on those points, please.
This is really quite simple actually, because so just to say, obviously you've moved and seconded the recommendations that you will get the performance monitoring of the council plan up into the work programme. So that'll be coming to a committee, probably not the next one, but the one in January you'll see on the work programme, where we'll be receiving the performance report. And we've made notes of everything that's said, and we'll do a summary of that, and we'll pass it on to Lucy. So those considerations can be taken forward.
That's lovely. So can we have, so could we have a vote, show of hands, that we're all happy with that, please? Thank you very much. Right, agenda item 5 is the local government reorganisation, shaping the proposal to government. Just on this report, committee, the report is seeking feedback from overview committee members that they can be used to shape the final proposal. This report is not about the arguments for or against LGR or the geographical makeup and boundaries of the 2 unitary councils that are proposed. So if it can try and be productive, thank you so much. I would like to ask Lucy if she can come in on that, please.
So just bear with me a moment. I'm just going to join the meeting in order to be able to share some slides. Because as outlined in the summary reports, there's a couple of it. Oh, sorry. Bear with me while I just join the Teams meeting in order that I can share slides which have a couple of additional details in respect of the member survey that is going to take.
There's a slight delay, so I'll let you work.
I mean, Martin, it says it's waiting for others to join. So I want.
That's what, yeah. Are you muted, Lucy?
on the backup.
Okay, members, so I will briefly talk you through summarise the report that's in front of you, and then talk through a couple of additional slides with some further information that we've gathered subsequent to publication of the papers because of the timeframe within which we're doing the work towards the proposal for local government reorganisation. So just to recap then, members will be aware that we're working towards a deadline of the 28th of November to submit a proposal to government for local government reorganisation for Nottinghamshire, following the statutory invitation received from the Secretary of State on the 6th of February. And members will recall that there's a set of criteria that government have set against which any proposals for reorganisation must be considered. So, of course, Council debated the options appraisal on local government reorganisation on the 2nd of September and resolved to approve the development of a proposal putting forward the case for 2 unitary councils, one covering Broxton, Bevan and Nottingham City, and a unitary covering the reigning county of Ashfield, Bassetlaw, Mansfield, Newton, Sherwood and Rushcliffe. And as part of that full council report at the beginning of September, Council also resolved to establish cross-party member working sessions in order to inform the development of the proposal. So the proposal that is currently being developed and that will be considered by full council on the 20th of November is putting forward the case for developing 2 new successful unitary councils, serving one that will serve the more urban communities in and around Nottingham and the other serving the more rural areas, county villages across wider Nottinghamshire. The proposal is intended to have a really strong focus on improving outcomes for people. So what can the proposal put forward that means people's lives will get better across the whole of the area of Nottinghamshire? A really strong emphasis around making sure that services are local and giving residents more say, and taking that further because government have published some further requirements through a bill that's going through Parliament around strengthening people's ability to take part in decisions that affect them locally. And equally, yes, so as I say, giving residents more of a say of what happens and strengthening local public service delivery. So the proposal, which is being developed in partnership with Rushcliffe Borough Council, who have also resolved to support this geographical configuration of councils, will be the full proposal will cover a number of chapters. So I've outlined in the report what those chapters will cover. So that includes the case of change, if you like, the options appraisal that was considered by full council at the beginning of September. The kind of proposal for the councils, so really describing what those councils will look to deliver and how. The financial case for the reorganisation, so costs, benefits and so on, and in the context of council's current financial positions and forecast financial positions, as well as responding to local engagement, so feedback from a whole range of stakeholders, so of course residents, but also other key stakeholders, including statutory partners that the council works with, and addressing any both responding to the ideas generated through that engagement, but also addressing any concerns raised. The final chapter within the proposal then is around implementation planning. So what are the steps that that need to be taken, subject to government decision making, in order to move forward within the timeline required by government to implement those new councils. In terms of the content of discussion, as agreed at council on the 2nd of September, 2 member working sessions were held in mid-October, attended by 31 members. And in those sessions, members were able to consider what they felt the vision and outcomes for the new council should be. So partly around ambition. If you have read previous local government reorganisations, people will often talk about whether the ambition is to be what's called safe and legal on vesting day, so on the day the new councils are established, or whether to seek to go further than that and seek to achieve better outcomes for residents by, I guess, driving forward ambitions to whether that's around bringing services together, integrate services. So a kind of a question around vision and also outcomes that unitary's need to address. And equally then thinking about governance structures. So what does moving to a unitary, what was a proposal for new unitary structures mean for the role and number of councillors? And particularly thinking about that within the context of government's forthcoming requirement to establish neighbourhood governance bodies, so structures to enable much more local decision making close to communities. As I say, there were 2 member engagement sessions, and both in the report and in the slide, we've summarised the kind of core feedback that we heard from members. I think it's fair to say there were a breadth of views across the number of discussions that were held across the 2 sessions. But the kind of early feedback that we received was around seeking for the proposal to be ambitious, really connecting communities, being proud in the places that you represent in Nottinghamshire, really focusing on the quality of services that residents experience. So whether that's the kind of the roads that people drive on, and whether that's around town centres and making sure that they feel safe and that there's a reduction in antisocial behaviour, for example. And again, really thinking about the opportunity that unitary local government presents for improving things like housing and bringing together those sets of responsibilities that in our patch are currently held across the upper and lower tier councils. And finally, a real focus around meeting the needs of all residents. So I think because of course in creating 2 unitaries, whilst one would predominantly be focused around meeting the kind of the predominantly urban area and the other the towns, villages, rurality of the wider county, actually within that there are of course communities that don't fit within that broad description. So if you live within the predominantly urban unitary, for example, you would need to, how would we make sure that residents in the more rural areas, for example, have their needs prioritised and met and reflected? So that was some of the discussion that took place with members. The second theme around indicative councillor numbers. So kind of, and the report details the early thinking that's been done around kind of how many councillors would each proposed unitary need to have, reflecting, of course, the increased workload that comes from being within unitary, and again considering the kind of how you meet needs in an area where the population is very dense in some parts and very sparsely populated in others. And as part of that, thinking about actually how can councillors be supported to undertake their roles as effectively as possible. And then finally then on neighbourhood governance. So this is, as I've described, the government's proposal, and they will provide further detail on this that hasn't been published yet, around establishing community-focused structures to enable local decision-making, with the potential then to devolve budgets and decision-making and bringing decision services closer to residents. So again, I guess a wide range of views reflected around the kind of opportunities that presents, as well as some of the potential risks in terms of kind of efficiency and kind of clarity of accountability and decision making, and a need to make sure that we're thinking through how would those structures work alongside other bodies and other organisations. So of course, critically in areas where there are town and parish councils, thinking about those relationships, but also thinking about wider public services and kind of having a more partnership approach to local decision making in order to reflect community needs. And just a note then, I think members were really expressed a desire to further shape the ongoing development of this work. So I think, obviously we're at a point where we need to prepare a proposal for council to consider prior to the government deadline of the 28th of November, but there's a very significant amount of work that will then follow, and I think a really significant opportunity for members to shape the more detailed planning at the following stages. So just a couple of slides then on the member engagement survey. So this is something that was circulated to all councillors in order to get a broader range of perspectives to shape the proposal, and I think there's still an opportunity for members that haven't yet had the opportunity to complete this to do so, ideally within the next couple of days, because time is tight in terms of the work that we have to finalise the proposal. But again, what this seeks to do is to kind of generate a greater understanding of how councillors undertake their roles and the kind of where they most see their impact in their communities, as well as beginning to think around the issues and topics that feel most important or are most regularly raised with members. And as you can see, there's a good deal of synergy in terms of antisocial behaviour roads, cleanliness of public spaces. These have come through, much of the engagement work that we've done. There's a kind of a common thread, and they certainly came through the member engagement sessions that we had. Specific, and again, there's some headlines around actually how do we make sure that councillors are able to reach and engage effectively with all residents, and some of that might be about geography, and some of that might also be about the different ways in which residents choose to engage, and whether that's in person or whether that's through digital tools and so on. And then again, a further question around support and resources for councillors in the new unitaries. So again, this is very early thinking, but around actually how do we use tech, for example, to support members. The idea of dedicated engagement days. So really thinking about how can members maximise their role in local communities, and that strands around strengthening links with town and parish councils. So which came clearly through the discussion again with members. Apologies for the typo that I've just spotted in the header on that slide. So I guess that's the input in terms of the work that we've done so far with the member working groups, and I'm conscious that some committee members engaged in some of those working sessions, I think. So, but really an opportunity for committee members to provide some further feedback, I guess, reflect on what you've heard, but also, any other ways in which you want to shape the proposal, recognising that we're in final drafting stages and taking that through ahead of publication for the full council next week.
Questions, please. I'm sorry. Sorry, if we can accept the recommendations as written. Move the recommendations as second, and I'll put it as I'll ask Martin to read out a summary of all the points. Oh no, that's not there yet. No, we're not there. It's Councillor Smith. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Lucy, for the report. I appreciate I wrote out to all councillors, but I just want it on the public record that I think the way that this process has been rolled out is a complete and utter sham, and it's all been done behind closed doors. There's a mechanism in place in this council, Chairman, that this committee should have delegated the work that's been carried out to a working party, which would have been involved cross-party politicians, but also been open to the public. There have been minutes of that meeting that would have come here for verification, and we could have live streamed it to the public to see. It's a total sham behind closed doors. And if we'd have done a working group, and I forgive my passion to the officers, because if we'd have done a working group, we'd have elected a democratically elected politician to chair that working group, and then the report we'd see in front of us would be in the name of that chairman of that working group. Instead, this report is in the name of the director of Public Services Reform, and unfairly, you are going to answer the questions that this committee puts forward. The officers have been put in that awkward position, and I want to apologise for my passion that will come across in my questions to the officer, because it's by no means a reflection on them. It's just a complete wrong way of setting up this vitally important work, and it's been set up wrongly, and now we are where we are, and the officers are having to take questions from members, and I think that's a disgrace, and I just want that on record. If I can go on to the report, paragraph 8, Lucy, says that members were advised that proposals would incorporate a focus on the following outcome areas. I'm going to read them, Chairman, but they're in there, paragraph 8. Children and families, adults with care and support needs, housing, homelessness, and those experiencing severe and multiple disadvantages, growth and employment, neighbourhoods, place and environment, including public safety and health outcomes. And then and this is to the point of the sham comment I just made. Then paragraph 9 reads, when asked to consider priority areas for inclusion within the proposals, the following themes emerge through members' discussions that happened behind closed doors, by the way. I'll read the points out, paragraph 9. The importance of focusing on core local services. The first feedback from members. In my opinion, that incorporates all of the above in paragraph 8 that members were advised that the proposals would incorporate. Building connected communities. Members apparently came up with. But if you read paragraph 8 again, the proposals that were put forward to these working groups, that to me matches the neighbourhoods proposal there. Schools and education, members come forward with apparently. Children and families, paragraph 8. Addressing antisocial behaviour, paragraph 9 that members came up with. Neighbourhoods, paragraph 8. Road maintenance, paragraph 9, members came up with that theme. Neighbourhoods, place and environment, paragraph 8 that members were told they had to incorporate. Ensuring the needs of all residents are considered and met, members came up with in paragraph 9. Funny enough, that matches neighbourhoods, place, environment and public safety and health outcomes in paragraph 8. And forgive me, I missed out antisocial behaviour, which is in paragraph 9. Again, that's in public safety in paragraph 8. So I'll tell you what members came up with in the behind closed door sessions. Absolutely nothing. They have not shaped. You're all being told it's a sham. It's a complete sham. You're all being told that members in these behind closed doors meetings have helped to shape local government reorganisation in Nottinghamshire. The report in front of you clearly states nothing was achieved. You haven't. It's a complete sham. You have not shaped anything whatsoever. Everything in paragraph 9 that members came up with matches exactly what paragraph 8 says that the proposals would incorporate. It's a sham, and we've all been led down the garden path. Paragraph 16 says members' views.
Can I just interrupt you?
I'm sorry.
Councillor.
Of course, no problem.
Just to clarify that these closed door meetings, you were invited to and declined to go.
Correct. Yeah.
So although you're complaining about them being behind closed, basically we didn't do it on YouTube. We had meetings of the groups who wanted to attend, but we didn't do it on YouTube. But you declined to go.
Yes.
So you're complaining about the members, what the members suggested, but you weren't prepared to go and actually input anything yourself.
Forgive me, Madam Chairman, you're absolutely correct. I declined to go because the meetings were behind closed doors and the people who elected me would not be able to see what the contributions to that meeting to help shape AGR would be about. And the point I'm trying to make, which absolutely makes clear the reason that it was right not to go to these meetings behind closed doors, is because members have been fooled into thinking they have shaped this LGR proposal. I've just set out in the 2 minutes before that I spoke that members were told in paragraph 8 that the proposals must incorporate the below focus points, that there are 5 bullet points. There then is 6 bullet points in paragraph 9 that says members come up with. All 6 of those match the 5 above that members were told they had to incorporate. Therefore, the behind closed doors meetings to help shape LGR was a complete nonsense because it hasn't contributed. I'll move on because I've made that point twice.
Just a second, please. Please, let's not. I appreciate your opinion. You were given the opportunity and given your experience as a councillor, you could have contributed to this document, which you are now complaining about. Is it just you could have actually helped the people of Nottinghamshire by attending and doing what you were supposed to do prior to this. So just come back and say this is all a sham when you didn't attend in the first place. I'm very sorry.
Are you talking rubbish?
Thank you very much, Councillor Lawton, for your opinion. I would like to just move on and continue. Can we have, instead of criticising the officers, can we have some?
I wasn't criticising the officers, just to be able to try to make that absolutely clear at the outset. I was not criticising the officers. to your point, Chairman, I am trying to move on, but you keep bringing up the fact that I didn't attend. I didn't attend, 31 councillors attended, and the 31 councillors that attended have not shaped a single thing of this LGR. Paragraph 8 tells the members what the proposals must include. Paragraph 9, which is what the members came up with apparently, matches paragraph 8 in its total, and that's as a result of 31 people attending, they achieved nothing.
So have you got
My question,
your
yeah,
question?
my
please,
question
sir.
is on paragraph 16. It says members were sought on membership, potential powers, the remits, etc. What categorically, Lucy, and I apologise for ending this at you at the start, again, because it wasn't set up correctly and no councillor was appointed chairman of a working group because it isn't. Paragraph 16 says members' views were sought on things including membership, potential powers, remit, budget. What exactly has changed as a result of those views being sought behind closed doors to the proposal and slides that you went into those private meetings with? What exactly has changed as a result of that, please? Thank you.
So, if I may, I just wanted to come back to paragraph 8, if that's okay. The priority areas outcomes described in paragraph 8 relate to the local government outcomes framework. So, what that paragraph intends to describe is the set of outcomes that government are saying local areas will need to deliver against within kind of both now and into the future. So, in terms of shape, in terms of the structure for the proposal, it is structured against those proposal areas because that's they're the outcome areas the government have set. And in terms of the opportunity for members to influence the proposal, what this document describes is where we are on the journey, because of course it's the proposal that comes to full council on the 20th, which will be the proposal that incorporates feedback. Because within that, I guess partly what we're looking to do is to make sure that members in representing their local communities can enable us to amplify and bring out those elements that feel particularly important in a Nottinghamshire context. So I can't at this point today say exactly what that will look like in the final proposal, because that work is still being undertaken. And I think part of the hope behind having this discussion here today was to enable a wider set of members to contribute such that that additional feedback can inform the work we're doing on the proposal.
Councillor Lawton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lucy, can you put up the last slide, please?
I don't actually know that I can, just because
It stopped working.
I've crashed and I would need to reboot, which I can do. Do you mean the question that was on the last slide?
There were 2 bullet points on the last slide.
So if you just bear with me, I will read them out because, as I say, I can't. My computer is frozen.
The one that was titled feedback.
Yeah.
So the feedback, it said, what views would committee members like to contribute in order to
Thank you. That's what I intend to comment on that particular bullet point on the final discussion, Madam Chairman, in the public domain. The reason why we stopped and we did not take part in inverted commas, as my leader said, your sham, is because you did not follow due protocol as far as the committee process is concerned. You broke the wording within the Constitution. Thank you. Now, having made that point, that's the reason why we didn't take part. We would love to have had a comment, as I am about to make at this meeting, in the public domain. I want my residents to understand and to follow what my view is on this particular subject and what is their view as well. And so I intend to put forward a couple of points, really, which will magnify their views. The big problem is that we are following a due process which is changing every week as far as the Secretary of State is concerned. Lucy mentioned one point. She said people's lives will get better. But unfortunately, the proposals that are going into front of central government, my residents' lives, those people that I represent, will not get better. And the rationale and reasoning for that is because you are diluting the tax take for the new authority, which will have to look after the majority, talking 73% of the demand in adults and young peoples, that being in Ashfield, Mansfield and parts of Bassetlaw. And my residents are going to have to pay it. They will be poorer. They will be poorer. Can we?
Sorry,
It's asking for my input, Madam Chairman. The final asking for my input.
It is.
And I am giving my input.
But you're talking about your people, not Nottinghamshire.
It is asking for my response, Madam Chairman. There are rural communities right the way across Nottinghamshire are impacted exactly the same as my residents.
I appreciate LGR was not what you wanted. I don't think LGR was what anybody wanted. But we have got to do LGR. We have no choice. Now that has been already discussed at full council, and whether you won or not, it was in the public domain, and that is the proposal we are now discussing. I know it won't benefit your people. However, we want to know for Nottinghamshire, not just your area, sir.
I am talking about all the rural areas. You're talking about all of Rustcliffe, all of Newcombe Sherwood district council area. You're talking about the rural areas of Bassetlaw, which will end up carrying the can. I'm not talking about just my area. I'm talking about rural area. I'm talking about Ravenshead. The leadership at Nottinghamshire County Council have openly admitted they know nothing about Ravenshead. Unfortunately, your proposal is going to sell the residents of Ravenshead down the river.
Councillor Lawton, I'll say this once more. The proposal has gone to full council. Whether you liked it or not at full council, this is the proposal we have got. Now, we cannot change this proposal. We either put points to this proposal to improve it, but it doesn't get changed. That has been decided, and you spoke, and you were there, and you voted. Fine, you put your hands up. I'll move on. Thank you, Councillor Hampton.
You're not prepared to listen to me. That's fine.
I believe I was talking stupid a moment ago, and I believe you are doing the same, sir.
That particular final
Councillor Stoll.
for my input.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find it absolutely astonishing that certain members didn't come to the LGR engagement sessions, which I and the 30 other councillors did attend and found very, very useful. I will go on to say that when you threw your teddies out the pram and sending your email by not attending, that you derelicted your residents.
What did we achieve?
What did we achieve? We discussed, so back to your points, in points 8 and 9. And first of all, can I thank Adrian and Lucy for arranging what I found, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the Reform UK councillors who did attend, that they were very well run and useful sessions, and they sparked lively debate and good discussion, of which you ostracised yourselves from that. So, you know, you'll have to explain that to your residents, why you weren't, well, how do you know you weren't there?
Waste of time.
They weren't a waste of time.
The report's there.
The report is there, and
Achieved absolutely nothing.
we discussed all those points because they talked about the areas that the new councils will be, you know, we're not going to start talking about swans and boats and things. We're going to talk about what the council delivered. So that's what we talked about. So it would be very odd if points 8 and 9 didn't marry up. If suddenly we were talking about Nottingham Forest, that'd be a bit strange, wouldn't it? So I will say again that I will say that you it was a dereliction of duty by not being there, but that's your business. Anyway, I move on. One of the lively points of discussion that did come up was the sorry, what they're called, the local governance committees that we spoke of. And I just wondered if there has been any more discussion or anything more from yourself, Lucy, that you could elaborate to the committee on about the structure of those and the powers and where we think ultimately we see that fitting in, because I think there was a bit of confusion from some members as to exactly what that would look like. And then point 16 talks about the budget of these authorities. So really, we know obviously some areas don't have parish councils, some areas do in town councils. So again, it's how do these committees dovetail in with parish councils in areas that do have parish councils, and then areas that don't. So would we see that there would be greater powers for neighbourhood committees that don't have parish councils? So ultimately, it's about what that actually looks like, because there was some views expressed where these committees could potentially be, or as was phrased, by the recreation of the districts and boroughs by the back door. So really, it's about understanding that and what that looks like. So that's my question to you, Lucy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So what the proposal will describe at this point is a potential set of kind of principles for ways of working and potential powers, because of course what this proposal isn't seeking to do is to get ahead of decision making that the shadow authorities will take when they, assuming things pass as is planned in terms of legislation and so on, they will be the decision makers in terms of actually how those structures will be put in place, and equally in line with government guidance, because what government have said through the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill is that they will to some extent prescribe some of the ways in which those structures will work. I think what we've done in the last 2 to 3 weeks, so have done some engagement work with town and parish councils to begin to have an understanding of what opportunities they see in terms of working alongside potential new structures, but also really thinking through how neighbourhoods and effective neighbourhood community delivery can be at the centre of the proposal that we're putting forward. You'll be aware, I imagine, that there's lots of talk around neighbourhood health. Councillor Dolly referred to it earlier, in terms of bringing services closer to communities. So quite a lot of the work that we're doing is to try and think about the relationship between the democratic structure and how that works alongside how we organise the services that are provided by a range of different organisations in that local community. So trying to make sure that in the proposal, it's clear what the early thinking is, because as I say, this is thinking that will need to be shaped moving forwards, and that will be part of the implementation plan, to look at how do we bring together those, the potential role of those neighbourhood decision-making structures, and equally what geographical population they serve. So how do we make sure that they are local enough in order to meet community need, but not so local that we can't resource them effectively. So there's definitely something around what kind of population size, what natural communities do you build those around? And that's one of the pieces of work that I think we've identified we'll need to do in the next phase of implementation planning. I don't know whether colleagues feel that there's anything further on your side.
Just basically where we're at currently with it. And we've also been looking at how best to engage the public within that as well, in terms of to what level you would go down in terms of decision making.
Councillor Clooney.
Hi. I know obviously you know we're no friends of reform, but the Labour group did decide to attend these sessions, which we did actually find really useful. We realised that this report has come from those meetings, so it's now in the public domain. You know what was discussed at those meetings, and also the way they were run as a workshop style. We sat round tables chatting, so I'm not quite sure how much the public would have got from seeing those discussions, because if it had been like in this room, you know, and they were looking through YouTube, I don't know what they'd been able to hear from the tables. So that's how that happened. And what I found particularly useful was the I think, as you've mentioned, the information about the devolved neighbourhood governments, whatever it's going to be called. And because I think that was a thing we didn't perhaps know very much about beforehand. And I think that allowed us to form some ideas of how this will work kind of on a local level. And I think that will be very useful to inform residents about how this is going to work, rather than it just being like one big massive council a long way away, how it's going to inform our residents. So actually, I haven't actually got a question, but I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Councillor Bestwick.
So I didn't realise I was around so early. I do have a question, but just a couple of comments on what's gone recently, really. Obviously, it's a very heated debate. We're all very passionate about this. We're passionate because whichever way you slice the Nottinghamshire cake, it's likely that our residents are going to be worse off.
Yeah.
There's not much doubt about that. The reason we didn't participate in this process was purely because there's a protocol to follow, and it wasn't followed. And that's a fact. So I'll move on because I know you're going to tell me off.
No, I'm just going to mention, thank you for pointing out that the protocol was not followed properly.
Yeah.
It is a shame you did not raise this with me at the time directly as a I got the email, Sam, stop shaking your head at me.
No,
you
raised
did
it
not.
with the monitoring officer before the full council meeting.
Well, the monitoring officer did not speak to me.
Well, but we did.
I'll move on then, Julie.
If it was a complaint, it should have come back to this committee, as you said. However, I did not get one.
Okay, well.
And I'm very sorry I'm not your party, but as chairman of this committee, if you've got a direct complaint that's not getting answered, and I said this in the very first one, you will not be ignored, I will take it up. I didn't get that, and I'm very sorry, gentlemen, you feel aggrieved about it. But if we can now move on, Sam, I'm not coming back to you.
Well,
Is Councillor Bestwick?
Just a point of clarification, because that what you just said there needs to be appropriately responded to. The Conservative group wrote to the monitoring officer of this council, who is not a politician, she's an independent legal person, and we made clear that we did not feel that the mechanism used, i.e. setting up these behind closed doors meetings, were appropriate, and that they should go to scrutiny to create the democratic body that the Constitution allows. We did that. We didn't come to a politician because you're a politician of the ruling group who put forward the recommendations that were in the paper. That wouldn't have been appropriate, because then that would have caused, you'd have had to go to your leader. That would not have been appropriate to put you in that position. The monitoring officer was asked for a ruling, and we went through the appropriate channels as per the Constitution.
So the monitoring officer went through the appropriate channels, and she said, no, you're wrong. You can't have it.
No, she didn't say we're
So basically, well, she didn't give it you, Doc. Councillor Bestwick.
I'll move on anyway, Chair, thank you. But yes, I don't know who made the comment, but I can look my residents in the eyes and say these decisions were made behind closed doors. Anyway,
your choice.
My question.
Decision was made at the council.
I'm speaking, excuse me. My question is to Lucy, if I may. I represent 5 parish councils in my division, one of which is Ravenshead. Ravenshead Parish Council is quite a large parish council. It owns and operates a leisure centre, among other things. What guarantees do you think the City Council will be able to give us, or the new City Council, whatever you want to call it, will be able to give us to protect those parish councils and the powers that those parish councils currently have? For instance, are they going to take my leisure centre off me?
Of course they are. Although she can't answer.
We're just trying to go on. tentatively stepping to try and offer a bit of a response. I think, Stuart, you forgive us that we can't answer that because we don't know what the legal relationship is between the town and parish council and the leisure centre, for example. I think the point I would probably offer is that the government have made it reasonably clear that local government reorganisation doesn't need to impact on the existence and the role and responsibility of town and parish councils. What's described in the Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill around neighbourhood committees is about the operation of local authority services and the governance for those local authority services at a more neighbourhood level. So that doesn't change the role and responsibility of the town and parish council in that area. Now, what I'm very conscious of is not all of our town and parish councils are the same. Some operate services under service level agreements or under licence or under all sorts of contractual arrangements with various different local authorities and indeed other bodies. All of those things will have to be considered as part of either the transition plan or by the new councils after vesting day. So you'll forgive us that we won't be cited on the specific arrangements that relate to Ravenshead, but I would separate out, particularly in terms of the discussion that I think we're having here around neighbourhood governance and what the government call community empowerment, which is distinct and different to the role of town and parish councils going forward. For that to be a useful answer. But if there's a particular illustration you want to check out with us, maybe we can catch you up.
So just to summarise, you're saying it's likely that it won't affect it, but you can't guarantee it at this stage. No one can guarantee it at this stage.
It wouldn't be for me.
No, I know it wouldn't be you, but there is nobody from government has guaranteed it. Because what's concerning, of course, is if it's an expanded city council, call it what you like, generally speaking, the people who are in the city council and run it at the moment have no experience of parish councils. And that's a big concern for not only my residents, Madam Chair, but lots of residents across Nottinghamshire who are in parish councils who could be part of the new city council. So can I just register that to this committee for something that we ought to keep our eye on, please?
You're going to sell our residents down the
Would it be a good idea if we had a overall map where parish councils do actually sit? Because obviously you know your parish councils and I will know my parish councils, but I would not necessarily know other parts of the community of Nottinghamshire. Would that be, I think, beneficial to give us a better picture for moving forward in when we're going to decide how many residents or so on and so forth per councillor? Is that all right for everybody?
Yes. Well, and thank you. Yes, and I think we have been having that engagement with the Nottinghamshire Association of Town Councils, specifically to try and understand how the new councils would best operate with them going forward. And of course, there will be perspectives on both sides of that we've been trying to understand and then design in. Because of course, what we're designing here is 2 new councils that will operate from 2028 and beyond. And so through that dialogue and through conversations like this, we're trying to gather up the insights and then design in what would be the best possible way of those new councils working. So in this case, working with town and parish councils. So yes, we have that map of where they all are. And that map is one of the considerations for us in thinking about how the neighbourhood governance that is described in the Community Empowerment Bill might work. Because of course, it's very possible that town and parish councils will want to be a partner of and be present and engaged in those neighbourhood governance committees or whatever it is we're going to call them. So yes, absolutely. And I think the experience that members have around the table not only as county councillors, but as twin hatters and then members who work with town and parish councils. It would be great to get your feedback through the survey about how you work well with your town and parish councils. What does good look like for working with your town and parish councils? What experience do you have that you would want to make sure that newly elected members of the new councils post 2027 replicate, so that again we get an opportunity to design this in to the new councils, all of which has to be described in the proposal that we are putting together. So either through this conversation today or through the survey, by all means feedback your experience, and if there are particular areas Councillor Bestwick has raised that we need to consider, like for example service agreements and how will they operate going forward, they're really helpful things for us to have sight of the balance to think through what we need to design the proposal. So we'll follow that through with Councillor Bestwick and any others afterwards.
Thank you. I find it particularly helpful to acknowledge all the parish councils because obviously I do not know them all. Councillor Clooney, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to come back again. Sorry, again, it's not really a question, but it's about the neighbourhood governance thing, and the thing that our friends in the Conservative group have mentioned, that there seem to be a lot of questions about, well, can the parish council do this, can the parish council do that, and the understanding of the neighbourhood governance. And I think part of attending the workshop sessions, why I wanted to, was part of it was to understand a little bit more about what the proposals were about, and I certainly felt like I got a lot more information in those sessions, and I feel in a better position to inform my residents, of what's going on, because I feel like I understand things better. Obviously, they chose not to attend and didn't want to take part in this. But I think Adrian actually said about the parish councils just now, there's no proposal to change anything, to change things about the parish council. So I would think if they run the leisure centre, but we don't know about the contract, as Adrian said, but there's no proposals to change things with parish councils. But what they would have is probably, I think part of the idea is for them to be on the neighbourhood committee, or have a say on the neighbourhood committee to talk about, the very local area. So, yeah, so that's just a point I'd like to make.
Thank you, Councillor Clooney. Would anybody else like to make further points? I'll come to you, Jodie.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Mason. Just going forward, obviously, into early next year, I think it's March time when the government will, the Secretary of State will announce whichever option is chosen for Nottinghamshire. I'm just wondering what the council's strategy will be going forward beyond that point, with liaising with existing district and borough councils and indeed the city council for the transition arrangements for the new authorities, what that will look like, what the strategy is, what the member engagement will be like, and also consulting with the public. There must be some thoughts around how that will actually indeed play out, because obviously that's got to happen regardless of whatever option is picked. So some elaboration on that would be really useful. Thank you.
So our understanding of the government timeline is that obviously proposals submitted at the end of November, and then it would be our expectation that government will undertake statutory consultation, public consultation on any proposals that it considers meets the statutory criteria. So we would expect that to take place early 2026, and so that will be a process that will take place for a kind of prescribed period of time. And there are a number of authorities who are ahead of us in the LGR journey. So Surrey, for example, has already been through this process, and there are 6 other areas which have submitted proposals and I think where statutory consultation has been pending. So that will be the process where public consultation will take place prior to the Secretary of State then making that decision around which option they wish to be implemented. And then that will then trigger transition planning, implementation planning. And I think that will be prescribed by the Secretary of State in terms of what democratic arrangements need to look like as part of that process. But one of the things that the proposal seeks to do is to put forward a kind of a phasing that we consider would work for the area as a whole. Now, of course, different councils in our patch, there will be different proposals being submitted to government who will potentially propose different ways forwards. So I think it will be for government to determine the approach that it wishes to see. But I think certainly from an officer perspective, it would be our expectation that we will be collaborating with our officer colleagues across the city, district and boroughs kind of appropriately in the run up to formal government decision making in order that we can do appropriate work to prepare for the transition.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. Just to, for the recording, I totally agree with Councillor Stoll on transition. Oh, God. You've asked for feedback to shape the final proposal, Lucy, recommendation to, could we build in there, and you may have already done it, so that'd be great, but can we build in there that this council and the councillors who represent rural areas and are part of the proposal that puts their division or part of it into the city, that there is strong working relations that before the transition date, particularly around parish councils. We've heard a lot about that now. The city has no parish councils, so they won't understand through no fault of their own, or may not understand the workings of those. Stuff like flooding, the city doesn't have to deal with flooding much on a greater scale that we do, and rural bus, connectivity, they don't have an on-demand service because they have NCT that turns up 2 minutes outside every part of the city, whereas if you live in the rural areas where I represent, you have access to the county council's rural bus services. So I just want to see in the final plan something that outlines how that working group will be set up, and it needs to have councillors on who represent those divisions and officers from both authorities, so that the city council can understand what they're about to inherit and be able to deal with those matters, because on day one of transition you can't turn off the rain clouds and say don't flood in Burton Joyce, don't flood in Balderton, because the city don't know yet. We need to be ready to go with that. We've seen under EMCA the transport handover has taken a very long time, and it's about to be switched on. Is it very cool? Has been switched on, and there'll be teething problems there, which is fine because the bus will go on the road and pull up and stop where it needs to. But if you don't know how to deal with flooding, you're affecting people's lives at a drastic level. So if we can build that into the final plan, and then I can go back to my residents and say I did take part in health checking. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Chair. And the only observations I'm making at the moment is I think the government will be very happy that we can't agree on the way forward, because then they will have the decision to make themselves, which I think they will do anyway, when we shan't have a say in what the final proposal is. Can I say that on item 6 in the information area on page 23, it said new unity structures should enable stronger community engagement. But how is that going to work if they're going to make councillors have almost some of them double the amount of constituents? How are they going to cope with that situation and get the delivery of what the people want when you've got so many people to talk to or to create a meeting about? And as I say, not telling us how we're going to do this neighbourhood empowerment. Is it going to be area committees? Is it going to be town councils? Is it going to be parish councils? They're not telling us. They've put no substance at all to the proposals, only that it's going to be a unitary authority. And just leaving it to us to make, as I say, assumptions of what's happening, argue between each other, whether we should be arguing with the government, not within each other.
I think you're preempting it, John.
Pardon?
I think you're preempting it. That will come after this November.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Well, put it this way, it should come after this November. Yeah. We've got to get this November submission submitted. So while I share your frustration in not knowing what is happening precisely, as well as everybody else in the room, any questions on this submission prior to November? And I'm going to pin you down on it now. If we drift, I'm to jump.
Okay. I'll try my best, Chair. It says in the report that unitary local must be the right size to achieve efficiencies. They started talking about 500,000, and yet then all of a sudden, when people were arguing about it, they said, "Oh, it could be this, could be that, could be." We just don't know, do we?
John, my love, we cannot go backwards. So we cannot argue what the government criteria is. We have it, it's been to full council, we've got this proposal. Have you any questions to put to the creating of this proposal, which they may or may not accept, to go as submission in November this year?
I mean, there's a number of questions I've got. How can big unitary authorities give opportunities for neighbourhood empowerment to remote areas, which our friend Councillor Lawton was talking about?
I think we're talking about the levelling up agenda, aren't we? That's where we are with it.
Yeah.
I believe, again, I think that comes after, or should come after this.
And
so I'll just bring Lucy back in on this, John, and then we're going to move on.
So I guess just to reflect, it is the case, of course, that there are existing unitaries in parts of the country that already serve populations, not dissimilar to the populations that would be served under the new unitary arrangements within this proposal. So Sheffield City Council, for example, is a unitary that serves the city population, but also has some rural delivery within that. And equally, there are existing county unitaries also. So I guess it is the case that there are existing structures in place in other areas where they have been able to kind of work through how to, I guess, balance workload and how to make sure that you can deliver effectively locally and represent local communities despite being part of a large unitary organisation. And that learning will certainly informs the work that we're doing on the proposal, but will continue to inform the work moving forwards.
Question for this proposal in
Yeah.
November, John, please.
as I say, how difficult is it that to make proposals when each council, or all the district councils, have different problems and so forth? How are we going to? Is the system going to possibly address that? You tell me, give an answer for that.
Lucy.
Yeah, woman.
So again, I guess I would reflect that certainly if you think about the role of the county council currently, the county in its existing work serves the needs of diverse communities across the patch that we already serve. So I'm not suggesting that there isn't further work to do to consider how future organisations will work, but we do have foundations to build from, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And my final point is about schools. It said that we're going to do different policies for different schools. How does it come about that we can do that when most of the schools are academies and don't want anything to do with the county? How do we deliver that?
Lucy, if you wouldn't mind.
So yes, it is the case that many of our schools are now academies rather than local authority maintained schools, but we do of course still have a number of maintained schools, particularly primary schools and some special schools. So I think it's really critical that as we think forward, both the role of the junior unitaries, but also from an implementation perspective, because that will be complex, that we, the education of children is at the heart of what the core responsibilities of those unitaries. So it's important that we, really think about that in the work that we do.
Madam Chairman, I think what we're concerned about is, and this is what I'm directing this direct to you, Lucy, is what we're concerned about is some of the responsibilities that are carried out by districts and borough councils. This council has never really delivered. Take for example leisure centres, where there is a considerable inequality across the whole of the area if the Secretary of State, 1B, decides that is the way he wants to go. And it's really about checks and balances as far as the residents are concerned, how we intend to support them and protect the level of service that they have been used to receiving. I mean, leisure centres is a classic example, an easy one really to talk about. You know, if you go to Mansfield, the population which the Mansfield Leisure Centre service delivers per leisure centre is far greater than it is, say, for example, in Rushcliffe. And so it will be very easy for pressure to be put on a new unitary authority to have an impact as far as that delivery is concerned, because the people of Mansfield are going to go, well, actually, I want a similar service to what's going on in Rushcliffe. And the people of Rushcliffe will be going, well, just hold them here, you're not dumbing down my service. So it's how we deal with those issues I think we're interested in more than anything else, and which will protect our residents. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Lucy, would you like to add on that?
So I think in terms of the early work we're doing on this proposal, of course, we're working with colleagues in Rushcliffe Borough Council. So that's informing the early thinking around leisure centre provision specifically. But I think it is the case that in terms of the transition I've begun to speak about earlier, this transition planning, there's a real commitment to trying to take the best of what exists across the area as a whole and to look towards how do we take the opportunity to bring up the quality so that that's, you know, we learn from what works effectively across the place as a whole. And that will be picked up as part of, as I say, as part of that transition planning. But equally, I guess it'll be the decision-making role of those future unitaries in terms of actually what the shape and delivery models of future services will need to look like.
Thank you.
To emphasise your point, I think what your Councillor Lawton is trying to say, for example, when we brought the national living wage in, or it was brought in, people at the lowest end got that bit of uplift. But since then, it seems to have brought the upper people down to the, you know, the living wage, rather than the increases going up and up. I think Councillor Lawton is wanting to try and ensure the best we can that services do go up to the better one and not come down to the lower one.
Correct.
And I think that would be wholeheartedly supported by every councillor here. So on that point, I hope we can agree.
We've agreed twice in this meeting.
Oh, and so let's back it up. Was there any more? Oh, sorry. Was there any more on this point, please? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I've got from this meeting is neighbourhood governance is foremost in everybody's mind.
Correct.
And there's definitely needs to be mechanisms in place for the two to work together. But on the flip side, how are we engaging with MCA to ensure joint functions run smoothly?
So certainly in terms of the proposal that we're putting forward, it's really clear, both in government criteria actually and in our local area, that MCA are looking for proposals to support the delivery of their inclusive growth framework. So which was referred to before, but that very much that ambition around how can we support inward investment, growth areas in terms of industry to support the industrial strategy. How, from a local perspective, can we make sure that that's driving jobs for our local people with good wages? How can we get ahead of that in terms of trying to make sure that we are have the skills opportunities so that people have the skills and expertise to be able to go into those roles? So I think MCA are certainly looking to see that in our proposal we are thinking through, how would these two new unitaries enable those things to be achieved? And that's partly around, there's some specific criteria and governance and decision making. So having 2 unitaries here and 2 unitaries in Derby and Derbyshire, which is looking to be what, you know, they're kind of having balanced populations in order to make decision making effective. So the proposal will look to describe how can we make sure that these future unitaries will maximise, I guess, both what MCA are looking to deliver, but equally that from a Nottingham and Nottinghamshire perspective, that it's delivering better outcomes for our residents. So again, making sure that from a housing growth, housing quality perspective, that you know, this proposal looks to how we can kind of secure that for people. Totally sure I've answered your question. I don't know if any colleagues want to chip in. Thank you.
And just to, I suppose to amplify one of the things that Lucy said, of course, with the development of 2 new unitary authorities for the Nottingham area and Nottinghamshire, what we would also see is services that are and services for residents that are currently delivered by district and borough councils becoming part of a constituent authority of the combined authority. So that potentially, I think, gives the opportunity for those kinds of services and the outcomes that they deliver for residents and the interests of residents that they present, having a more formal seat around the table at MCA than perhaps is the case at the moment. And I think that offers an opportunity for those kinds of services to be understood and to help shape delivery across a wider patch, perhaps more than is the case at the moment.
So what you're saying, there is sort of a transitional roadmap being considered in place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other members on that one, or shall I get Martin to summarise?
Good luck with that. Yeah, go.
One and
Well,
more.
I'm not going to try and put that into sentences. Yeah, I've taken it all down and we'll put a summary together and pass it on to Lucy for consideration. Just like we do.
That's an easy way out.
Right, if we can have a show of hands, please. Thank you. That's passed. Agenda item number 6, scrutiny work programmes. This item will be introduced by Martin.
Yeah, it's a normal item on the work programmes. I don't think there's been any changes since it came to committee in September, because we shouldn't really aim to be changing the work programmes throughout, so there hasn't really been any changing other than the addition of this extra meeting, because they're important items. So as always, if you have got any suggestions for the overview work programme, just let myself and the chairman know, and consideration will be given to including them.
Not sure that's sweet. Would anybody like to comment on this? Because I have one. Cool. Okay, go first. Everybody else can go first. Councillor Smith and I agreed.
Well,
you told me you weren't going to tell anyone.
What are you going to do? It's out there as well. So.
That we would like the looking into the assets to be brought forward.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a response yet, unless Councillor Smith has had a response. No. So could we know why we are not coming any sooner than May, or have we got to just lump it? Because we're in the same boat on this. We did agree that we would have liked it sooner.
We'll have some discussions with officers and we'll get back.
Okay. Well, I did.
Thank you.
I did ask the question, Sam, because I have not had any answer either. So
keep pushing.
I will do that. Councillor Clooney.
Yeah, on that, on the, I presume you're talking about council buildings and property.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I thought about that. I wonder, is that better suited to when we know better what's happening with LGR? And I wondered if that's why it's a bit further along. And the other thing, obviously the preparations for local government reorganisation is coming in May. As I presume that fits in with when we're going to know more information.
Very smart answer, thank you, councillor Clooney, but that's probably what I'm going to get back from Martin now.
Yeah. That
Yes,
was-
it's very realistic, thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a consideration when we worked with officers. It was still linking with our LGR, because obviously, as you'll see from the stuff that's been on the internet, and what you hear from like Wayne Baxter and like say, the considerations have changed since LGR came up, and what we decided before may not be suitable enough. So that's why it was left until May. But we'll still have those discussions, and obviously the chair's asked for it, and we'll come back to everyone on that one.
Good. So we haven't got any,
No.
unless anybody's got anything? No, so we've got nothing to agree. It stands as it went before. And I'd like to close the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.